Welcome to Future Innovators Day. We're excited to have you with us. My name is Brooke Meyer. I'm the Director of Education and Innovation for SARSEF. And we're here to talk about a special program SARSEF has called Racing the Sun. It's a program mostly for high school students where they get the opportunity, and I say get because it's so exciting, they get to build a solar-powered go-kart, and at the end of the season, the end of the school year, they get to race those karts. Racing the Sun is especially exciting and meaningful to me. I was fortunate and I got to spend 20 years of my life racing.
I'm the president of Musselman Honda Circuit. We've been here about 18 years. We provide education and recreation opportunities. So it's neat, and we're very exclusive. We're the only kart track in Southern Arizona. There's only 2 in Arizona, 1 in Phoenix and 1 in Tucson. And again, having this controlled area gives a good, safe place for kids to learn and be overseen and be taught. And we're just excited to be part of that and to really see it grow and help out in the different areas that we can. Being that we're involved in go-karts, we are able to provide some of that insight.
We can't wait for you to join us out here for Racing the Sun. This year, test day is in March and race day is in April for those teams that have already signed up. Remember, any high school student anywhere in the state of Arizona can join us next year.
Look us up on the website, look up SARSEF, and I think you're going to want to join.
One of the things
we miss so much
during COVID-19 is not being able to take you through our fulfillment center
in person.
we're still here and working hard to get your parcels delivered safely.
Always come with David Timms
To bring the tour to you, wherever you are. So welcome.
Welcome to Statue.
Welcome to the Amazon Fulfillment Center tour. We're really excited to be showing you around our building. Hi everybody, my name's Paul, and I'm going to be your first tour guide of the day. Today we're in Rugeley. This building is one of our Amazon Fulfillment Centers, or FC for short. This building is 750,000 square feet, or 10 football pitches if you want a comparison. All of our buildings are named after the nearest international airport. The nearest international airport to this building is Birmingham. So this building is called BHX1. And I think you'll agree, the view from where we are now is quite spectacular. This is Sarah, and Sarah's making one of our famous boxes that turn up at your doorstep. Thank you, Sarah. This box has been on quite a journey, but let's go and see where it all started. So let's go and see how they were received. This is where the whole process starts from. It's actually a combination of people, technology, and high-tech computer algorithms. Over half the items sold on the Amazon website by our small and medium-sized business have done this by using Fulfilled by Amazon. Now, this is where we will bring the items in, we'll pick the items, we'll pack the items, we'll ship them out, and we'll even take care of the customer services for them. And more businesses are taking this up each year. As the items make their way up the conveyor belt, one of our associates will take the items off and we'll scan the barcode that is on the items. Now, once we've done this, we will then place the item into a black tote. Once it's the items inside the tote, it goes back onto our conveyor belt, which lets us distribute the item throughout the FC, and it will make its way to our storing area. So we're going to go upstairs, and I'm going to pass you over to Tony.
Now that we've received our items, they're now ready to stow. The way it works is that we scan our item's barcode, We then check it for damages. We then pop it onto the shelf and then we scan the barcode of that shelf location. Once it's on there, we know exactly where the item is at any time and we can immediately go to that when we go into our next process. This method of stowing has been very successful. However, over recent years, we've developed something even more exciting. So let's head over to our robotics site with Marta.
Hi folks, my name's Martha and I'm here in Dunstable at one of our cutting-edge Amazon robotics fulfillment centers. This building is what we call LTN4. Do you remember the naming system? Perfect. Amazon robots are activated once the associate logs into their working station to perform his or her task. The robots are bringing yellow shells to our working stations where our associates can fill up pods with more products, or we can pick up your orders. This is one of our shelving units. Our orange rectangular robots are going underneath these pods, and the lifting device is picking up a shelf just a bit from the floor so it can be moved to our working station. Let's see our store station so I can show you how we are filling up pods with the products. Our associates are asked to assign containers to themselves. The next step is to pick up an item from the container. Then we just have to scan this barcode and find the space in the shelving units for this product. Probably you're wondering if the system tells us where we should put this product. It's completely random. We call it random store method. So that means that the most popular items are spread across all the levels and not all in one place. After the process is completed, then we've got digital and physical match in our system, and all these items are available on our website for the customers.
At Amazon, we are continuously looking for ways to make improvements. And this robotic arm is one of our newer features. It's actually called a palletizer, and it helps us move heavy totes around quickly and safely.
Once you hit Buy Now button on Amazon website, this is the beginning of our outbound operations processes. Once you order a product, the information about the item will go to our system, and then the robots will be informed about which item you've ordered and where it is located. Then the robots will pick up a pod and bring it to our working stations facing correct side. And then it's quite easy. All the informations are on the screen. Then we just have to pick up the item from the shelf and put it to the correct container. In one container, we can have products ordered by several different customers. If you would order, let's say, 5 items, it's really rare that one picker only will pick up all of your items. More likely, they will be picked up by several different pickers. All the items you could find in this building fit into our containers. We also sell bigger items, such as kayaks or TVs even, and we store them in our so-called non-sortable fulfillment centers. Once your products are picked up, they will travel in a tote down to our multi-pack area, where they will be packed by our associates.
And here we are in the flow room at LCY2. This is where operations to my right are watching the workflow to make sure everybody's delivery is leaving on time. To the left of me here are the engineers. These guys are watching the conveyor belts. We have 16 miles in this building, and they're making sure it's all working smoothly.
This is pack. This is where all of your items end up after they've been picked, and they will then come down the lines and they'll be sorted into single pack and multiple pack. Just behind me, I have Sebi packing on singles today, and he's putting one item inside each box. Everything that they need is here. So all of their boxes, their envelopes, and their tape is always on this station or easily accessible. And they do move around onto different processors as is required. So what he'll do is he will scan his item onto the system. It will tell him exactly what size box he requires. We then have the tape that is cut exactly to the size of that box, so we do not waste anything. Once he's finished packing, it will then go onto the line and then sent down to SLAM and then to shipping. Now that we've finished packing our box and popped it onto the conveyor belt, it's now going to come to what we call SLAM. SLAM stands for Scan, Label, Apply and Manifest, and this is where all of our parcels pass through before going down to shipping. This label is applied by a little bit of air pressure, and each of these parcels is going to be scanned with a little white barcode that we applied at the pack station. And each one of these barcodes is going to identify what's inside that box. Once that's been scanned, it will then go through into the system automatically, and it will tell the system which address label is required. Once these parcels have continued through this part, it will get separated into large and small boxes, and these will continue down to shipping. What's pretty cool about this machine is that it can do this whole process without stopping the parcel. So that label is applied straight away and it continues and generates within a matter of seconds the next label. This is our final stop. This is shipping. This is where all of our parcels end up. They're going to be sorted and then they'll be sent onto the trucks via pallets and ATS carts. As you can see behind me, we have some chutes. These are where our parcels are sorted and sent down the lines. So each one of these conveyor belts is a different distribution centre. And as workers behind me are going to scan those parcels and send them off onto the correct pallet or ATS cart. And then they will then be scanned into the truck that needs to go to that area. Our trucks, they come throughout the day. They are given a time slot when they can come into the back of the building, and then they have a certain amount of time for those parcels to get inside that truck. Once it's loaded, they will then close the truck and send it on its way. This is the last stop of our tour. Thank you so much for coming around with us today. We hope you keep safe, and we hope to see you in person on one of our tours soon.
Thanks for taking our tour today.
It's been a pleasure.
Show you around.
Wow, that was amazing. My name is America Miranda, the program's liaison at SARSEF, and I am thrilled to join you live on Future Innovator Day. Right now we have 3 Amazon employees that are joining us to tell us a little more about their positions, and they'll take questions that you can submit via the YouTube chat. You might be watching the live stream. You might be watching the live stream through the main stage on the fair site, but to join in on the chat, you can find us live on the BizNected YouTube channel. So let's meet our panelists. We have Sarah Hester, which is a Senior Operations Manager, Say Green, Operations Manager, and Zulenka Mills, Outbound Ship Clerk. So thank you for being here with us today. Let's get right into it. First off, can you just tell us a little about your STEM story? How has STEM impacted your life and your career? Sarah, we can start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So like she said, my name is Sarah. I've been with the company for about 5 years. I actually graduated from the University of Arizona and somehow ended up working for Amazon. So obviously very grateful to be here. Amazon's done a lot for me personally. Just want to give an example of how I use math every single day in my role as a senior operations manager. One of the biggest things that we do here is obviously figure out the math and the logistics behind how are we going to get packages out the door into our customers. So one thing that we do as a senior team is every week we sit down, we get our projections from the network on what we need to bring into our site in order to get the inventory onto our website. And then the other thing that we do is we figure out what kind of how many associates that we need every single day to ship out the volume as well. So what we do at a high level is we are coming up with plans and executing to them based off of our weekly projections. And we do more so planning for the week and for the month. What we then do is we actually pass off that information to our operations manager, which is Say here, and he is responsible for creating daily plans, weekly plans, and does a little bit more granular planning that I do at a high level. But a lot of this requires a lot of math, a lot of thought process, and we have to figure out from an associate perspective. Our associates are basically what we refer to as our employees here at Amazon. You saw a few of them working in the video. So we have to figure out how many people we need in our pack departments, how many people we need in our SCO departments to make sure we have the right. So I don't know if Stacey, you want to elaborate a little bit more about what your daily plans look like? That would be great.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name is Stacey. I've been with Amazon for about 6 years now. Right now, I'm currently the inbound operations manager. With that being said, I'm in charge of just making sure that with the plan that the senior team makes, I need to make sure that my team is able to actually hit that plan on a daily basis. So in order to do that, I need to make sure that I'm using math to kind of figure out like, hey, based on this number of volume that I need to process, how many people or associates do I need and receive to make that happen? And then also figuring out how many people I need in stow just to make sure I get that stow product into the pods that you guys saw. Super critical just because you guys, like as customers, you guys aren't actually able to order that stuff until it's actually received and stowed. So it's super critical that I'm doing the correct math just to make sure I'm able to hit that plan. And that way we have that product available for all of our customers to purchase.
Zulenka?
Hi, my name is Zulenka, like you said. My job is to take care of the robotics department, making sure that the robotics are have no problems, and if there's any problems, to troubleshoot and fix our technology. Also, there is, if you refer back to the video where we watched, there's pods where we put all of our items. Sometimes those items fall on the floor, and it's called the AR floor, that we have a lot of obstructions from the robotics not to be able to work clear and good. So we have to figure out the quickest and the best way to clear our floors without interrupting too much into our associates that are working to pick those items delivered to our customers. Also, in the meantime, I'm in charge of balancing the floors, making sure that we have enough associates to work in each station to accommodate for the volume of each day. And always support my team for whatever they need.
That's incredible. And just a question for all three of you: who is someone that has impacted your career, your education? Who has really left a mark on your journey thus far?
Yeah, I can go first with that. So like I said, I've only been with the company for about 5 years. And when I started, I actually got the opportunity to launch my first Amazon robotics site in Texas. And I met a female operations manager. At the time I came in as an area manager, which is a little bit of a lower level, kind of an entry level management position. I met somebody named Nicole. She was fabulous. She was definitely a rock star, very, very vocal leader. I used to be very, very shy when I first started with Amazon, and I work with people every day. We're really in the people business just as much as we are in the science business as well. But one of the things that I looked up to her too is because she was our only female operations manager that we had in the building. So it really inspired me being a female leader in a position that she was making changes, she was pushing her team, she was delivering results, like everything that we asked for in an operator, that's who she really was. And she really inspired me and made me realize that it's possible to move up throughout the company being a female leader. And actually, when we launched this Tucson facility, we had over 10 female operations managers, which I personally thought was like very, very cool. And just in 5 years for the company to come thus far has just been really an incredible progression to see. And we actually are celebrating Women's History Month this month. So we're all really, really excited and jazzed up about that here at Test 2, and really looking forward to the future and seeing some great female leaders move up through the company.
And Say, how about you?
One person I think I can say who's definitely had an impact on my career is my first area manager. So, like I said, I've been with Amazon for 6 years now. I actually started off as a tier 1 associate and just progressed and promoted just throughout the years I've been here. But when I first got to Amazon as a entry-level associate, I didn't really have any kind of manager experience or just any real leadership experience before that. And she was that person who kind of showed me basically how to be a leader, how to ask the right questions, and how to figure out opportunities within our operation to kind of take on to myself and figure out how to make things a little bit more efficient. So that way it allowed me to promote within the company. But I definitely owe my leadership style and just my drive to do well at Amazon to her. And the coolest part I think about it is just the fact that I don't think she really knew how I felt about it. When she was my manager as an entry-level associate, she eventually left the building. But I actually ran into her again when I launched this building and let her know how much I appreciate it and how much of an impact she actually had on my Amazon career. So
That's incredible. How about you, Zulenka? Oh, sorry, Zulenka, I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. As I was thinking of that. I don't think I can just point at one person that has impacted my life. I can just say that there's a lot of persons, whoever comes in my life and makes a change for the better, I think it impacts my life to change and invite me to experience new challenges. So sometimes I don't even notice that they impact my life until they pass, and then I look back and I can see my growth. As Sarah was saying, she was very shy. I was very shy too when I started with Amazon. I've been with Amazon for a year, and it has made me grow so much as a person. And every leader I had is just put a stone on my growth. So I think everybody has an impact on me.
Yeah, I totally can relate to that. You kind of meet people along the way and you don't realize what an amazing impact they have on you until, yeah, I totally get that. And Zulenka, since we have you on here first, so can you just share a time where you used problem solving directly in your career at Amazon?
Sure. Every day for us is a problem solve since we're not working in a controlled environment. Like I said before, we have to make sure that our floors are always clear from obstructions. We have to see the possible best way to enter our floors and not get hit by a robotic. But everything is safety, so we do the best to not disturb the stores, which are putting items in the pods, and the pickers are associates who are picking those items to deliver in time. Also, not only that, but during the day, volume can change up and down, and then we have to adjust for that. So we're constantly doing problem solve.
And say, same question. When was the time that you just really had a problem solve for something that went wrong at work, or just situations that come up like that?
So one particular situation I can recall. So this is when I was the outbound dock manager. So I was in charge of just making sure all of the product that we had packaged was departed on time. So if you guys remember from towards the end of that video, you saw the packages moving along a giant conveyor down to the outbound dock, where they actually get those packages and load them into trailers. There was a time where that really big conveyor actually went down. And so our ship dock department was on the first floor of the building, we had packages that were actually on the third floor of the building. So without that conveyor, we didn't have a normal means of getting those packages down to the dock. So my job was just try to figure out like, hey, like how can I still get these packages out and deliver to our customers on time? So that's where I came up with a plan. We had a elevator that we didn't normally use for packages. It was normally just used to transport non-inventory items. So what I ended up doing was just getting my associate, sending them up stairs and using that elevator to just manually transport the packages down. And then from there, just manually sorting the packages into the correct trailer. So that way we can still fulfill our customer promise.
That's amazing. That sounds so complex. Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, I think that problem solving is something that I use every day. And I've always used it my time in Amazon. More recent example though, we were notified as a company that but before COVID, I'm going to back up a little bit. We used to do something called what we called a stand-up meeting every single day with all of our associates. So the area manager would get together a group of everybody, kind of go over some safety stuff for the day, some standard work things, what our volume goals were, et cetera. And it was a really, really good method to get people pumped up for the day, to let them know important information and to communicate, what our goals were and what was going on in the building. So when COVID happened, we actually removed that process altogether. We stopped having those meetings so that we could keep everybody 6 feet apart, everybody had a mask on, et cetera. Recently, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Stacey and Zulinka, right? We were told that we had 1 week to figure out, hey, we're going to bring stand-up meetings back to Amazon. However, we have to follow certain criteria. So that means that we could only have 25 people per stand-up, and we had to find enough square footage in the building. Those of you who may have seen our fulfillment center before, it's a pretty large building, but we really don't have that much open floor space. So this was definitely a challenge. So one of the things that I always do when I have a problem is, and you can even look at the whiteboard behind me, I sit down and I write down everything on a whiteboard. I visualize it, and I'm erasing stuff, drawing pictures, making lists. And that whiteboard exercise really helped me a lot of times work through some of these logistics. And we were able to get a plan rolled out in 4 days. Things happen very, very fast at Amazon. And a lot of times you just have to sit down and bear down and figure out a plan very, very quickly. So I think that it's the whiteboard exercise is something that really helps me. Doesn't have to be necessarily a whiteboard, but just kind of drawing out what your plan is and what's going to work, talking through it out loud, all helps so much. And it's a big part of what we do from a teamwork perspective as well, whenever we're trying to solve any issue here at Amazon.
That's so relatable for so many different, jobs and careers. But what is something that you all three can share, something about Amazon that people like me might not know, that is super important?
I can go ahead and answer this one as well. I can knock this one off, but I think that in my time at Amazon, I've seen so many people come up through the company, and myself included, right? I think that not many people know how passionate we are here about development. We want to move people up through the company. We truly do our best to display all of our leadership principles to not only our associates, but all of our managers, and really get them on the same page as far as how are we leading, how are we, driving the business forward, and how are we continuing to improve every single day. And I think we've seen so many people come up through the company with, like Stacey is a great example. He worked his way up from, being a tier 1 all the way to an operations manager, which is definitely not easy to do. And it requires a lot of hard work, but we definitely reward that hard work and reward that innovation in the long run. So it's really, really exciting to be a part of the company, and nothing gives me more fulfillment, no pun intended with because we do fulfillment, but but it really gives me so much fulfillment to see people grow as leaders, and we put a lot of emphasis on that here.
And Stacey, same question. What is like the one thing that you feel you want to share with us about Amazon that we might not know?
So something I think most people just maybe just not be aware of about Amazon like Sarah said, we're very big on development and making sure that people have the right tools and resources to accomplish their job, whether it's just their current job or just whatever future position they want. So education is definitely a very important thing. But as we all know, we don't always have the opportunity to further our education. Amazon is one of those places where it allows you to promote and grow within the company, even if you don't have a degree per se. A good example of that is myself. I planned to go back to school. Things happened in my life, and I just never was able to go back. But like getting that development from my first manager, Amber, and all the other managers that I've had, they've taught me multiple things about the business and allowed me to grow as a leader to the position that I am now without even having to go back to school. So I think that's something important that a lot of people just aren't familiar about Amazon, is that we're super big on just developing our associates.
That's great. Zulenka, what do you want to share with us about Amazon that we might not know?
I agree with Sarah and Cece. They said. Also, for me, something that I didn't know and that is really neat thing, that Amazon celebrates all kinds of cultures. You get to be you when you come to work with Amazon. You don't have the pressure to be somebody else, to impress somebody. You can, all kinds of cultures, like I said, you can wear your tattoos, you can express however you want to be yourself, and nobody will judge you. And that's a really nice thing that everybody supports.
That's great. It sounds like it's all about acceptance and inclusion, which is super important. So this is something I'm super curious about. What was the last thing you guys ordered from Amazon? This is a question for all three of you. We'll start with you, Zulenka.
Talking about that, I just ordered last night. My niece is gonna have a baby, so I just ordered a crib for her and a bunch of little clothes for the little one that comes.
Congratulations. How about you, Cece?
So speaking of babies, I have another thing you can add to that list of things you should probably purchase, Zulinka. So I actually have a 1-year-old who is very adventurous, but he has recently discovered on his own how to play hide and seek. So he's recently gone into a lot of rooms he's not supposed to. So I've had to purchase a lot of door locks just to keep him out of those rooms. So definitely something you should probably add into that package, Zulinka.
How about you, Sarah?
So the last thing I purchased was actually not for me, it was for my mom. It was her birthday last week, so I got her like a stand-up planter to plant some herbs and flowers in, and she was really, really excited about it. And I think it's interesting because obviously a very large, planter, and a lot of people don't know that Amazon actually sells everything from, something that's really small to hot tubs to canoes. We really do sell everything. And I don't even think I realized that when I first started working for the company, but we have several different types of sites that handle different size items, and we truly sell it all, or try to sell it all at least.
That's awesome. I think the last thing I bought was like a portable greenhouse. So I totally get that. So our Racing the Sun program takes a lot of teamwork. What do you think is the most important principle of teamwork or leadership that you want the students to know?
Gosh, that's a hard one. I mean, this fulfillment center and none of the fulfillment centers around the world would not function, I can tell you, without teamwork. It takes a lot of coordination between departments. I think that it takes a lot of communication to your associates, to your managers, and upwards as well, in order to make sure that we're getting customer packages out the door on time to our customers. So I think the biggest thing that is so important with teamwork, and what you have to do, is figure out what motivates your team members, right? Everybody is different and everybody is motivated by different things. So it's really important to have those conversations with your peers and your other teammates, and ask, what makes you want to, what is driving you towards this initiative or goal, right? And everybody's a little bit different, and how you work with your peers, and it'll help you a lot if you understand what motivates them and what they're going after.
And Say, how about you?
One thing I always tell people, because I feel like it's something that always just gets missed, even though we all know it's a critical part of teamwork, it's just that communication. And it's with everything, really. Just making sure that you have that clear communication with your teammates, just to make sure that you guys are all on the same page as far as like accomplishing the same goal. So just communicating where you're at as far as where you're all that goal, and then how you as a team are going to get to that.
And Zulenka, what is like the most important principle for you when it comes to teamwork and leadership?
Yes, I would say communication is one of the best important things, but also leadership. Have the leadership on you to take responsibility to lead your team to an end result. I think is very important.
And for Sarah and Say, what do you wish you knew now at the beginning of your career when you first started that you know now? We'll start with you, Sarah. I see your smile.
Oh gosh, there's a lot of things I wish I knew when I first started out in my career journey in general, right? I think I was, like I said before, I did go to the University of Arizona, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to, get through college and go on and have a career, but I just didn't know exactly what it was. Amazon is something that I kind of, to be fairly transparent with you guys, I stumbled upon it, and I'm so happy that I did, because it's honestly changed my entire life. I've learned so much, but I think the biggest thing that I wish I knew when I actually started out at Amazon is I was not great at asking for feedback from other people and my peers, my leaders around me, my associates as well. And I think about maybe 2 years in my career, I finally figured that out, that I was going to grow more as a leader. I was going to be more receptive to feedback if I just asked for it, right? We're a very feedback driven culture here at Amazon. We give feedback upwards and downwards, meaning that we want people to, as Say, who's somebody who's worked for me in the past, I was continuously asking, hey, how can I do better? How can I make your job easier? Therefore, making both of our lives easier, because it's making me grow as a leader, and it's helping Say because I'm making things easier on him as well. So I think that's something that I wish I would have done right off the bat. Is just ask for feedback and ask the hard questions too.
And Say, what is the one thing that you know now that you're like, oh, if I knew back then?
One thing I can say that I wish I knew back then, and it sounds a little odd, but it's okay to not know the answer. And it's okay to ask questions. When I first started, I kind of felt like I was in an environment where I had to know the answer, and that once something was told to me that I should automatically know exactly what to do. But because I didn't want to ask those like clarifying questions, kind of make sure I understood what was being asked, there have been multiple times where I didn't accomplish the task just because I thought I knew, but I didn't know. And I think something that a lot of people are kind of afraid to kind of just speak out and say that, hey, I don't know the answer. Can you help me kind of figure it out? Or like, hey, I'm not sure I understand the question. Do you mind helping me walking through to figure out like exactly what you're asking?
And a question for all three of you. What is your job like day to day? We'll start with you, Say.
So in the morning, I basically start my day by looking at the plan that the senior ops has created. Looking at that plan, I start to figure out where I need to put my associates, as far as like, hey, based on this much volume, I need to have this many associates on the receive area, based on, how fast they can process and receive. And then from there, it's like, hey, based on the number of units that we're processing to receive, this is how many stores I need, based on how fast these stores go. So once I get all those inputs, I create a plan to execute to match and make sure that I hit that volume plan that the senior team has created. After that, a majority of my day is actually just going around engaging with my area managers just to make sure they know what the plan is, and that they have their associates staffed in the correct spots. And then from there, it's engaging with associates, just making sure that they have all the tools and resources that they need to actually accomplish their job, and to just answer any kind of questions they have.
How about you, Sarah? Can you give us a little look into your day-to-day job?
Absolutely. So I actually, as a senior, my days are very, very different. There are some days where I am running around out on the floor with the managers, with the operations managers, and trying to engage as many associates as I can and spend some time with them. Really in the process. I think that's one of my favorite parts of my job is getting out there and getting my hands, quote unquote dirty and going out and stowing and picking and packing with the team. They say still can't pack faster than me, but it's fine. But I think, I do have some days like that. And then my other days are more so high level, like looking at data, looking at past historicals and checking our rates, making sure we're staying on track and we have a good glide path forward. And really, analyzing the data, coming up with plans and et cetera. So to answer your question, for me specifically, every single day is different. And that varies a lot depending on what's going on in the building.
And Zulenka, what do your days at Amazon look like?
Pretty much like Cece says, I look at the plan first thing in the morning and to figure out how many people I'm gonna staff to make sure that the robotics floors are taken care. If anything changes during the day, I can communicate to the group, or if anybody's leaving, to replace that associate. Also, looking some data, make sure they were reaching data, and just making sure I have enough stuff.
Okay, so we have one more question for all three. What recommendations do you have for students who are trying to prepare for a job like yours? So we'll go ahead and start with you, Sarah.
Yeah, I'll be super honest. If you ever want to apply for Amazon, it's a great place to work. I've had multiple friends that have joined the company and have absolutely loved it, and it's really fun because it gives you the opportunity to really live wherever you want in the country. We have fulfillment centers everywhere, literally all over the world. So I think that's one of the benefits of Amazon definitely is you do have a lot of mobility. So for example, I've worked in California, Texas, Florida, spent some time up in Washington State and now Arizona, which I'm very happy to be back here. But one thing to be prepared for, going into this kind of a career is you have to remember, as much as we are in the we're in the planning business, we are making sure that we're getting customer packages out the door. What we really are here to do, and I think this has kind of been a theme throughout the interview, but is be prepared to be leaders of leaders. And how do you drive innovation from your team, and how do you pull it out of your team in a way that makes them not only grow in their roles, but helps others around them grow too.
And Zulenka, can you share any recommendations for students to prepare for a job like yours?
Yes. I would say that not to be afraid. Amazon seems to be big for a lot of people, but I would say not to get intimidated by that. Actually, to be as big as we are, it goes a day faster, and also Amazon takes in consideration anybody's opinion. So if there's anything that we can do better, we'll try it and see if it is a good result. If not, we'll learn in the process. But yeah, don't be intimidated how big we are.
And Cece? How about you?
One thing I can say for anybody who wants to possibly apply for a position like mine, or just at Amazon in general, is just be adaptable. So Amazon is a very fast-paced, innovative company. If you guys remember from that video, actually, so at the very beginning, it talks about receive and stow, but it actually talks about it from an older building perspective. So I started off the same way in my older building, where we didn't have the robotics. So we had the stowers who had to walk through the mods and to actually find a spot to stow the product. Versus the building I'm at now, which honestly blew my mind, is that we have those robots now who actually just bring the pod to you, so that you're actually just standing in one spot stowing. But there's always a lot of change that goes on. So just being ready and adaptable for that change.
I wish we could talk longer, guys, but thank you so much for being with us. We're headed into our next segment. We're going to join Sherry, our SARSEF's own robot general, as she shows us the mini solar RC car that Racing the Sun students received this week. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and engineering, and I am so thrilled that I get to be here with Meyer during Racing the Sun. We're so glad that you're here, and we hope you're enjoying all the presentations so far. If you're a part of the Racing the Sun's team this year, you might be wondering what's in the boxes that your team lead has given you. Because we know this year has been so unusual and your teams have not been able to get together as much as you wanted, SARSEF really wanted to treat all of our Racing the Sun teams to a special little model version of a solar race car. Don't worry if you don't have a kit. If you're an engineer at heart, you can order these RC cars on Amazon. So today what we're going to do is we're going to unbox, we're going to look at all the components of two versions of the car, and then we're going to ask some questions, things that you might do differently, and maybe some tips and tricks along the way. So if you're ready, let's begin unboxing. All right, so we're going to unbox both these models today and kind of talk about some of the tips and tricks when I was putting these together of both of these. This is version 1. Version 1 has a single motor with on the front axle, and version 2 has dual motors on the back axle, and they both have remote control. Version 1, forward and backwards remote control. Version 2 has a forward and back, as well as a left and right, depending on which buttons you choose to push at each time. All right, so we're going to unbox the first one. So let's start off with version 1. Here's version 1 right here. Lovely little solar car that we have. I'm going to move these aside so that you can see as we're unboxing. Pretty straightforward as to unboxing. You have all your pieces in different compartments and different baggies, and we'll talk about each of those. Important things are, well, they're all important, but some of the important things that you want to note is which one of the controllers and which one is the receiver. Just make sure that you're understanding in the diagram when you start to put these together which one is which, and they're pretty hardy. I've used hot glue on the back of mine, but it does come with tape if you want to use the tape on that. Also, in version 1, there are some things that I really truly like about version 1, and those things are, it's pretty lightweight. So once you put it all together, there are several things that are really nice about this kit. The wheels have a little grippy on them. which is super nice. This gear box right here that's attached to the motor, pretty easy to attach it and get it in the right area. Some of the other nice features of this one is once you look at the way that the circuit is put together, these are pretty much, you plug them in and they're ready to go. Some of the drawbacks on this feature for me was the tape. So this tape is a double-sided tape. It's pretty thick, almost like hot glue gun tape. The one drawback that I see from this one is even after 24 hours of using the tape and it kind of hardens up, it's still pretty flexible. So this one, you might think about other ways that you could modify this one, this lightweight one, to still work for a fast solar race car. All in all, this one was fairly easy to put together. I know the back of the box says 8 and plus. I would definitely say more on the plus side, but a pretty straightforward car to put together without a lot of difficulties. Now let's move on to version 2. Here's version 2 with the dual motors. So the dual motors, that was a little bit more interesting. So on the dual motors, let me show you that box and we'll unbox that. Version 2, again, it says 8 plus, and these are Pika Toys. That's the brand. It's the STEM Kit Pika Toy, both versions, version 1 and version 2. This one, as well as the other one, has pretty lightweight parts, components to it. Much larger wheels on this one, but with the larger wheels, these did not have as much grip to them as the version 1 car. If you get kit 2, you're going to want to make sure that you are looking at the battery boxes. So this one, let me open these up really quickly because that for me was a little important. Not that it was like the most dramatic thing that I had to really check out, but this part right here actually ends up inside on the car itself for your battery backup, and this one is the remote. Now the remote, I didn't realize at first, it has a switch. So switch on and off, just make sure that when you are trying to work your solar car, that you know that the switch is on or off. Otherwise, you do have a little difficulty or a little troubleshooting to kind of go back in through the whole system to check to make sure that your diagram, the way that you put your electrical circuits together, your circuit components together was fine. This right here, the circuit connection, not difficult to read if you've had any type of practice, and I'm sure all of you have, with the way a circuit is wired. The one thing I will say about this diagram, the problem is not with the diagram. I would say the problem for me was with these clips right here. So there are tiny clips that it's kind of like the version 1, but without the just plug in. These you have to be super careful with, because if you're putting in a double wire, it's pretty kind of, you can kind of see that there, it's pretty tight in there. You also have to push it all the way to the back of the box. Otherwise, your connection is not going to be good, and you're going to be repeating and iterating through the circuit to try to get the motors to work. So I will show you an up close of what I'm talking about with this one. Love that the solar panels already have weld spots on them. They've already been welded together. But this is the part for me that was most tricky right here. So trying to get 2 wires in there was a little bit tricky to make sure that the connection went all the way into the back. When I was running the solar race car, when I was running it outside and I had taken the batteries out, I was not getting a great connection, and sometimes part of the motor was working and then part of the motor, the other motor was not working. So again, you have to double check. These wires seem to, if you get them pushed in all the way, I did not have any problems. The other part of this solar race car that you might want to modify is how are you going to modify it? The directions did not tell me. Once you get the solar panels connected to the battery and connected to the motors and connected to the controller and the receiver here, how would you keep this stable? Because that was another thing that I had a problem with. I bet as a team you could come up with different ways of making this stable, of making it to where you can take the batteries out when you're to check out the solar and see if it's still working solar, put the batteries back in. You notice I modified with something that I had around the house. What other things could you use to modify either car? This car is much heavier than this car. So what modifications could you make for both cars? Also, another question for you. What skills do you need to have to be able to create both of these solar race cars? All right. And how might your model car, whichever one you get, how might that relate to how you are using this knowledge for a small model version to your larger solar race car on the track? All right, so these are things, tips and tricks that I have found useful putting this together. I'm going to move this camera up. I found all of these tips useful. I hope that you have fun building your model kit, and also when you do build it, why don't you send us pics at hashtag SARSEF Fair, SARSEF Fair 2021. We would love to see what you've done with the solar race car, and hey, we can't wait to see you at Racing the Sun test date. That's March 27th coming up. Can't wait to see you all. See you then.
Welcome back. I'm super looking into buying one of those little kits for myself. So our next presenter, I'm excited to introduce Carolyn Hutchins, who is a tape mechanical development engineer with IBM. Carolyn?
I'm working on it. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, thank you so much for being here with us today. So we're going to get right into it. Can you just tell us a little bit about your current position with IBM and what is it that you do?
So I am what's called a mechanical development engineer. I work on, they're called tape libraries. They are basically very, 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 very big hard drives for computers. And my function in them is these hard drives are basically so big that they run with robots. So I work on the design and the development of the robotic components, the robots themselves, the housing they live in, and all of the associated hardware. And it's a lot of fun.
That sounds really interesting. And you did share some links with us of some videos that we'd like to share right now, so we'll get right into those.
Okay, great.
So Carolyn, I have a question for you. How do you go about building prototypes? I know there's 3D printing involved. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I should have given a little more context on that video beforehand, but basically what you saw there was a tape library robotic system, and that robot is moving around tens of thousands of tape cartridges. Each of those tape cartridges holds roughly 10 terabytes, and a full machine can hold almost 20,000 tape cartridges. So it's a lot of data that one of our machines supports. And because these machines are so big and so expensive, a lot of our development is updating existing machines that customers have already purchased. And because of that, you already have a pretty well-defined environment. You have constraints, which are basically the bounds of your problem, the bounds of your design. And when you're not starting from scratch, when you're working with a lot of constraints, whether they be mounting holes or other components in the machine that you don't want to change and things like that, your designs get very complicated very quickly, and you're under a time crunch to get it done. And 3D printing can be a great way to solve those problems. Most of the time we use it for working on the form of the part we're going to use. Our lab has a plastics 3D printing machine, and we use it to scope out the design of just about anything. You can use it to make a plastic version of a sheet metal component or things like that, a plastic version of an electrical card. And you can make sure that things all fit together before you have to wait the weeks or sometimes months for a metal or plastic part. So it can get the design process down to a couple of days in what would have taken months previously. Now, they're not very strong. You wouldn't, want to put any weight on them, but for a lot of initial testing, it's good enough.
And if someone was interested into getting into 3D printing, where would they start?
That's a really good question. When I was in school, sometimes the school computer labs had design programs on them, and sometimes they don't. But thankfully now you can find a lot of these sorts of 3D design programs online. I can't speak to any of them in particular from the free ones, but there are a lot of 3D CAD designers out there, either through educational programs or online, and they are a great way to test your skills, to take something that that's in your brain and try to make it real. I would definitely recommend starting with simpler geometries rather than something crazy right off the bat. But it's a lot of fun to see if you take a square, or I guess I should say a cube and a sphere, and you stick them together in a bunch of different ways. Most things we design are some iteration of that. It's nothing. We're not reinventing the wheel most of the time. So to kind of cut your teeth on one of those programs, and once you think you have a something that you want to actually hold in your hand, there are If you don't have access to a 3D printer, because I know a lot of schools don't, there are companies out there where you can submit your files, and for $10 to $12, they will print it for you and mail it to you. I do that all the time. For myself, not for work. I print things all the time, and it's, you know, it's amazing the things you can get for $12. I mean, this doesn't look like much. My thumb is so dirty, I apologize. This is just a little 6-sided die, and this cost me $10. And, you know, I designed it when I had some time. The font is something I drew, and now I can make a mold of that and make some of my own dice. It's amazing the things you can start to put together.
Well, that is some great information. And as you know, our Racing the Sun team builds solar carts, and I heard that you have experience with being on a team like that. Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you can see it, I dug my shirt out from the closet from my old solar car days. When I was in college, I was a member of the U of A solar car team. It was part of our senior design project. We had 3 different smaller teams that made up the full solar car team, and I was part of the mechanical team. We worked on the body and the chassis. And because I was the only girl of this entire large team, I was the smallest member of the team, so I also got to be the driver. So I'm going to try to share my screen and share a couple of pictures, if that's all right.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. Oops. I'm not very good with Zoom. I apologize. Let's just do this. So, can you see this picture of our solar car?
No.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
There it is.
Oh, all right. There we go. So you can see it now?
Yeah.
All right. So this was our solar car. We were part of the 2008-2009 team. So there was one team, my team, who you can see here, who we were in charge of the body and the chassis. We had another team that was in charge of the power and the batteries. And we had a third team that was in charge of the solar cells. And as you can see from this picture of our car, it doesn't have a body and it doesn't have solar cells. We had a lot of things that went wrong in the 11th hour. And so the solar cells did not make it onto the car. That didn't stop us, though, from racing it. We were allowed to race it without the solar cells. We just weren't allowed to place. And so I don't know if you can see this picture now of me in my full fire suit assembly as the driver. This is the center of the Fontana NASCAR Speedway. They had a track that was set up for us, and our car survived 1.5 laps out of what was supposed to be 7. So it was a bit of a disaster. I will fully admit that, but I think it's one of those things you learn from, and I don't think we would make those mistakes again.
That's awesome. And this actually goes right into my next question, which is, how do you handle failure?
A lot better now that I'm in my 30s than when, you know, I was on that solar car team or in my teenage years. But I think the big thing you learn from failure is, besides not to make those mistakes again, is really just how you react. Now that I've had, you know, 10 years of engineering experience under my belt, I don't want to say failures don't feel as bad, but you know that it's less time lingering on what the actual failure was and more time just trying to come through and figure out the new solution. It's not letting yourself get down when you have a failure. Failure is something that you just can't avoid in life. It's going to happen, but you just have to be able to get yourself back up and keep going and either start over again or pick up what you can and keep going. And so that was, for our solar car, it was a great example of that. Is we talked into the organization and they let us still run the car. And we're proud of that. I mean, we were up pulling all-nighters the couple of nights before the race, and you know, it wasn't a win, but you know, it wasn't as much of a loss as it could have been.
That is some really amazing advice. And we have a lot of students on this that are watching that are interested in engineering. And what do you recommend when it comes to getting into that career field?
The biggest thing that I was very lucky when I was younger to be able to do is, you know, my father is an engineer. I had a lot of engineers in my family, so I was able to go and see what an engineer does. Engineering is such a wide field. There's so many different types of engineers. I met an engineer once who does the special effects for avalanches in movies. And I don't understand how that's an engineering field, but it totally is, and it's totally a thing you can do. So I would really recommend, if you're considering engineering, to talk to your teachers and your friends' parents and anyone who you know who might be in engineering, to see if they'll tell you about their job or let you come along and shadow them and find out what their job's actually like. My job, let's be real, like most jobs, is about 90% paperwork. That 10% is really fun, but for most jobs, it's a lot of paperwork. And, you know, you might get into a lab and decide you don't like it, or you might get into a lab and decide you really like the electronics aspect of it, or you like managing the teams of it, or there's so many different ways you can be an engineer that if you are lucky enough to kind of figure out which direction you want to go, when you're young, it makes the process a lot easier. Now, if you don't figure it out till later, that's great too. That's some of my favorite engineers didn't figure it out till later, but it's really a wide field.
Carolyn, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. This was super informative, and it's going to be posted on our website soon. So, but once again, thank you. We know you're super busy, and we hope to have you on again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.
You too. So thank you guys all for joining us on Future Innovator Day. We are also grateful for your science, and we hope you're celebrating your hard work and innovation. Come back tomorrow for the awards ceremony, live streaming right here. And from everyone at SARSEF, keep wondering. Bye.